The adoption phenomenon. Why Filipinos move fast. Adapting to cultural differences works both ways, but few Western men are prepared for what Filipino culture considers a normal relationship timeline. Behind what foreigners often misinterpret as moving too fast lies a complex web of family values, economic realities, and cultural expectations that shape how Filipinos approach relationships from day one. Take James, a 42-year-old engineer from Chicago who met Tina through an online dating site. After 3 months of video calls and messages, he flew to Manila to meet her. Everything was going great, James recalls. But by day 5 of my 2-week trip, she was asking when I'd meet her parents. By day 10, she was discussing which of my spare bedrooms her younger sister could use when visiting us in America. I felt like I'd missed some major relationship milestone without realizing it. This experience reflects what many expatriates and foreign partners encounter when dating Filipinas, a relationship acceleration that can feel disorienting. What James experienced wasn't unusual or manipulative. It was a natural expression of relationship development from a Filipino cultural perspective. The difference lies in how collectivist versus individualistic societies structure their social expectations. While Western dating often follows a linear progression, dating, exclusivity, meeting friends, meeting family, moving in together, engagement, marriage. Filipino relationship timelines often compress these stages or rearrange them entirely. Family integration happens remarkably early in Filipino relationships. While Western partners might wait months before introducing a significant other to parents, in Filipino culture, family approval is sought almost immediately. This cultural imperative reflects the deeply collectivist nature of Filipino society, where family units, not individuals, are considered the basic social building block. When a Filipina brings you home to meet her family early in the relationship, she's following cultural protocols that signal respect for her family's role in her life decisions. This early integration creates expectations of commitment that Western partners may not realize they're signaling by participating. This rapid adoption phenomenon resembles being unexpectedly invited to a family reunion where you're suddenly introduced as a new member rather than a guest. You're given family recipes, included in photos, and assigned responsibilities before you've fully understood your place in the gathering. Ryan, a 38-year-old Australian living in Davao, experienced this firsthand. After dating Maricel for just 6 weeks, her mother called me a knack child and started sending me home with prepared meals. Before I knew it, I was expected at family gatherings and being consulted on family decisions. It felt like I'd been fully incorporated into their family unit before I'd even decided if our relationship was long-term. This integration happens because Filipino relationships involve family networks, not just individuals. When you date a Filipina, you're often dating her entire family. By extension, family members actively participate in relationship development, providing opinions, support, and even intervention when they feel it's needed. The speed difference becomes pronounced when discussing living arrangement. Filipino culture doesn't place the same premium on independent living that Western societies do. Due to both economic necessity and cultural preference, many adult Filipinos live with their families until marriage. When a relationship becomes serious, there's often an immediate consideration of shared living arrangements, not because of impulsiveness, but because independent living isn't the established norm. Another factor accelerating relationship timelines is the cultural value placed on companionship over independence. While Western culture often celebrates the finding yourself phase of early adulthood, Filipino culture places higher value on the security and fulfillment found in partnership. Dr. Elena Santos, a cultural psychologist from the University of the Philippines, explains, in Filipino psychology, the concept of kapwa, or shared identity, is fundamental. The self isn't defined in isolation, but in relation to others. This creates relationship patterns where quick integration isn't seen as losing independence, but as gaining connection, something highly valued in our culture. Before judging these differences, it's essential to recognize they reflect equally valid but different cultural frameworks for building relationships. Neither approach is inherently superior. For Western men building relationships with Filipinos, recognizing these differences is about adaptation, not judgment. Setting clear boundaries early in the relationship can prevent misunderstandings. If you're uncomfortable with the pace, express this respectfully while acknowledging the cultural differences at play. Most Filipinos will appreciate honesty over reluctant participation in accelerated timelines that lead to resentment. Finding middle ground often means compromising on timeline expectations. Perhaps you're not ready for her to move in after 3 months, but you can include her in family video calls to acknowledge the importance of family integration. Small steps that respect both cultures create stronger foundations than rigid adherence to either extreme. Shy yet passionate. The paradox of Filipino sexuality. Cultural adaptation continues in the most private aspects of relationships. Beneath the shy exterior, many Filipinos present to the world lies an unexpected truth. Research shows Filipino women often desire experiences that completely contradict their Maria Clara image. This disconnect between public perception and private desire creates one of the most misunderstood aspects of dating Filipino women. Like a quiet pond whose still surface belies the vibrant life beneath, Filipino women often maintain a modest public appearance while harboring passionate desires within. The Maria Clara ideal represents the pinnacle of Filipino feminine virtue, modest, demure, and pure. This cultural archetype traces back to Spanish colonial influence and continues to shape expectations of how Filipino women should behave, especially regarding their sexuality. This cultural ideal remains deeply embedded in contemporary Filipino society, creating complex challenges for women navigating their own desires. Rica Cruz, a prominent Filipino sex and relationships therapist, has uncovered a fascinating paradox in her research. Behind closed doors, many Filipino women express desires for experiences that directly contradict their public personas, including fantasies about rough sex and even public sexual encounters. Cruz suggests these desires might actually be a response to long-held societal expectations that women should be gentle and reserved. The Catholic Church's profound influence in the Philippines provides essential context for understanding this dichotomy. With over 80% of the population identifying as Catholic, religious teachings on chastity, modesty, and sexual expression within marriage have significantly shaped cultural attitudes. This religious framework helps explain why many Filipinos might initially appear reserved in intimate settings. This contrast between public modesty and private passion represents a complex psychological response to restrictive cultural norms. For many Filipinos, these desires serve as a way to reclaim their sexuality and explore what truly excites them, challenging traditional narratives that have historically limited their sexual expression. A revealing study by Margarita Lea Delgado, Infante, and Mira Alexis Pineda Ranea explored how young Filipino women construct sexual agency within the context of Catholicism. Their research found that women's experiences of first sexual encounters were often linked to preserving their social status and maintaining a good girl position. The researchers identified several themes in how women describe these experiences, including giving in, nadala, being carried away, love, self-expression, and coercion. Despite the conservative environment, evidence shows evolving sexual attitudes among Filipino youth. The 1994 survey by Dr. Z.C. Zablon revealed that while 80% of Filipino youth disapproved of premarital sex, 18% accepted it. This indicates a growing openness particularly among female college graduates in urban areas who demonstrate more liberal attitudes and higher rates of contraception use. This shift reflects the influence of global media and increased international communication. The Madonna-whore dichotomy significantly impacts how Filipino sexuality is perceived and expressed. This psychological framework creates a profound conflict. Women are expected to be modest, but may also desire sexual fulfillment. Research shows men who endorse this dichotomy tend to report lower relationship satisfaction, while some studies suggest men raised with these rigid categories might develop exhibitionist fantasies stemming from cultural expectations that men should always be sexually eager. Filipino women's sexual satisfaction is heavily influenced by these cultural and religious expectations. Traditional values often prioritize the husband's satisfaction over the wife's. However, research indicates that younger, more educated, and less religious women tend to report higher rates of sexual satisfaction and orgasm. Western media has increased the proportion of Filipinas who prefer both emotional and physical stimulation during intimate encounters. The Western men in relationships with Filipinas understanding this complex sexual landscape is crucial. Creating a safe space for authentic expression requires patience and cultural sensitivity. Building trust is essential before expecting sexual openness. This means demonstrating consistent respect, avoiding judgment, and showing genuine interest in your partner's comfort and pleasure. Communication about sex benefits from a gradual approach. Direct questions about desires might initially be met with embarrassment. Instead, create opportunities for comfortable conversations about preferences, perhaps starting with non-sexual topics and gradually moving toward more intimate discussions as trust builds. Privacy is paramount. The fear of judgment from family or community can significantly inhibit sexual expression. Ensuring absolute discretion respects cultural sensitivities and builds confidence for vulnerability. Understanding the interplay between modesty and desire doesn't mean stereotyping all Filipinos. Individual preferences vary widely. The key insight is recognizing that cultural conditioning creates tension between external expectations and internal desires, making communication and patience essential elements in nurturing intimate relationships with Filipino women. Beyond the bedroom, food preferences and cultural comfort. This cultural complexity extends far beyond intimate moments. Picture this. You've made reservations at an upscale restaurant, eager to treat your Filipino partner to an evening of culinary delights. The menu features exquisite international cuisine, delicate French preparations, innovative Everson dishes, and exotic ingredients from around the world. Yet when the waiter arrives, she orders the simplest item available, plain steamed rice. The fragrant aromas of saffron and truffle oil waft through the air as crystal glasses clink and fine china gleams under soft lighting. In this symphony of culinary sophistication, her choice stands out. A humble bowl of white rice amid the artistic plating surrounding you. At first glance, this choice might seem puzzling or even disappointing. You might wonder if she's being overly frugal, unappreciative of your gesture, or simply disinterested in culinary exploration. But her preference for familiar foods reveals something profound about Filipino cultural values, economic realities, and deeply ingrained survival instincts. Rice stands as a beacon of tradition in Filipino culture, representing security, tradition, and identity. For many Filipinos, especially those raised in economically challenging circumstances, rice forms the foundation of every satisfying meal. Its presence on the plate provides a sense of completeness and comfort that transcends the actual flavor or nutritional value. When faced with unfamiliar culinary territory, ordering rice creates an anchor of familiarity in an otherwise uncertain dining experience. In households with limited financial resources, meals often consist primarily of rice accompanied by small portions of fish or other accessible proteins. This practical approach to food consumption prioritizes affordability and minimizes potential waste when eating becomes a matter of sustenance rather than recreation. Experimenting with unfamiliar dishes represents an unnecessary risk, both financially and emotionally. The decision to stick with familiar foods in new environments demonstrates the powerful influence of early food experiences and economic conditioning. Just as many Westerners might gravitate toward comfort foods during stressful times, Filipinos often seek the reassurance of familiar flavors when navigating culturally unfamiliar settings. Food neophobia. The reluctance to try new foods exists across cultures, but its expression varies significantly. In Filipino contexts, this hesitation often manifests as a preference for traditional dishes or simple preparations. This practical approach to consumption has been shaped by generations of economic reality, where wasting food was considered a serious transgression. The hesitation to try unfamiliar dishes parallels the same security-seeking behaviors we've discussed in other contexts. Just as physical closeness during sleep provides comfort and reassurance, familiar foods offer a sense of stability and control in potentially overwhelming situations. Both behaviors stem from the fundamental desire for security in an unpredictable world. When your Filipino partner orders plain rice at an upscale restaurant, she's navigating the experience according to principles that have ensured survival and harmony throughout her life. As one Filipino proverb states, "Pag may sinapan, may titay non." If you save something, you'll have something to turn to later. A philosophy that extends from financial resources to culinary choices. This is why pressure and criticism rarely succeed in changing these behaviors. Comments like, "You should try this," or "Don't be so boring," fail to acknowledge the legitimate cultural and economic factors shaping food preferences. Such remarks may even reinforce the anxiety around unfamiliar foods, making experimentation even less likely. A more effective approach involves patience and gradual introduction, creating a safe environment for culinary exploration, perhaps by ordering several dishes to share family style rather than individual entree, allows for low-risk sampling without the pressure of commitment to an entire unfamiliar meal. Celebrating small steps toward culinary adventure rather than expecting immediate enthusiasm builds confidence and trust. Many Western partners find that over time, with support and encouragement rather than criticism, their Filipino partners gradually expand their culinary horizons. The key lies in respecting the cultural forces at work rather than dismissing them as stubbornness or lack of sophistication. For many Filipinos, food embodies identity, tradition, and community. Maintaining connections to familiar foods provides a sense of continuity and belonging, especially when living in unfamiliar cultural contexts. This approach to food mirrors the same values we've seen in other relationship behaviors, prioritizing security, maintaining connections to tradition, and making practical choices that reflect deep cultural wisdom. Understanding these patterns transforms potentially frustrating moments into opportunities for deeper cultural understanding, allowing you to support your partner's need for comfort while gently expanding shared experiences together. So what's the main takeaway from everything we've explored? Simply that successful cross-cultural relationships, especially with Filipinos, flourish through open communication, mutual respect, genuine cultural appreciation. These essential tools help navigate potential misunderstandings. Approaching unfamiliar behavior with curiosity transforms seemingly strange actions into meaningful expressions of values. Interpreting actions within their cultural context prevents misinterpretations and builds deeper connections. The beauty of cross-cultural relationships lies in how our differences reveal meaningful insights about ourselves, creating bonds that are both challenging and rewarding. Wondering